In the year 75 BCE, a young Julius Caesar was captured by pirates who tried to ransom him back to his people for the sum of 20 talents. Caesar laughed at the pirates for not knowing who he was and demanded that they more than double the ransom to 50 talents. While awaiting said ransom, Caesar made himself at home among the pirates, bossing them around as if they were his subordinates and making them listen to speeches he had written. From time to time, he threatened to have them all crucified, which the pirates took as a fun joke from their overconfident and slightly weird captive. It was not a joke. Once the ransom was paid, Caesar quickly got himself a fleet of ships to capture the pirates and crucify them. What you may or may not have guessed about this tale is one of those pirates was none other than Xena Warrior Princess. Welcome back to Warrior Princess Playback. Today we're looking at Season 2, Episode 12, Destiny, an episode that uses a flashback to introduce Julius Caesar, a recurring villain on the show and probably the worst haircut in all 6 seasons. Seriously, why you want to disrespect Karl Urban that way? It also establishes the origins of Xena's famous pressure point fighting technique and sorta kinda kills off Xena, but she gets better in the next episode. Let's get cracking! We start with Xena and Gabrielle rolling into Syra, a village that Xena burned down when she was going through her evil phase. They're here now because Xena wants to brood about how she used to be a villain.
You've changed, Xena.
I wish I could see it that way.
Gabby stays on the outskirts of the village while Xena heads in to face her past. Which turns out to be a mistake because when she gets back, Gabrielle is gone and her staff is abandoned on the ground. Turns out she's been taken captive by these Simpsons yellow people who call themselves the Children of the Sun. Xena drops in and the Children of the Sun instantly mistake her for a goddess, which in my opinion is a perfectly understandable misconception.
I got nothing but bad news for you.
As the fighting starts, a quick chakram throw takes care of the captives and Gabrielle leads them to safety, except for this one little girl who decides to sneak off so she can hang around and watch Xena kick butt. Understandable. This guy comes at her with a really wicked looking weapon. I feel like in a video game it would be called a saw blade? Anyway, whatever it is, Xena's not messing with it, so she somersaults up into a tree and then flips down to... I don't know what you'd call this move, but it's effective. The little girl comes out of her hiding place just as the head of the yellow body paint people sets off a trap that makes a gigantic log swing down. Xena pushes her out of the way but fails to save herself. It hits her like a croquet mallet and sends her flying face first into a tree. It honestly can be hard to gauge how bad an injury is in Xena when they weren't allowed to show much blood, but suffice it to say, ouch. Gabrielle's quick to rush to Xena's side as she mutters incoherently about needing to go to Mount Nestos, then passes out. Flashback time! From here, most of the episode takes place 10 years ago at a point early on in Xena's villain days. A good clue that we're in the evil Xena era is that everything is on fire. She does a little speech about how she's punishing the enemies of her home Amphipolis, but I'm not really sure who she's talking to because, as I mentioned, everything is on fire! Down on the docks, one of her men is beating up a captive. He draws a sword and is about to kill the guy when Xena steps in to point out that they've captured a Roman noble who is probably worth ransoming off.
That's right, we can get 20,000 dinars for him.
20,000 isn't enough. They'll never believe you have me if that's all you're asking.
Send out a ransom demand to the nearest Roman settlement. Tell them to send 100,000 dinars if they ever want to see... What's your name?
Caesar. Julius Caesar.
Can you hear me? Xena!
Back in the flashback, Pirate Xena has found a runaway slave who's stowed away. She comes flying out of the basket like a hellcat and starts fighting everyone and uses pressure points to freeze one of Xena's legs, does the same to this guy's neck, then flies up the mast, catches this dagger out of the air and uses it to slide back down the mast. This bit kind of reminds me of when you press the wrong button in Assassin's Creed and end up climbing up something you didn't mean to climb, but then people are chasing you so you might as well go with it. Oh hey, this move looks familiar. Xena throws a dagger to make a sail fall onto the slave girl, allowing the men to surround her. Then Xena commands her to fix what she did to her leg. She also commands her to fix the man who had his neck pinched, but...
What's she saying?
She said it's too late for him.
surprise! Caesar speaks the woman's language. Xena says she'll spare the woman in exchange for lessons on how to do that pinchy thing, and it's a deal. Then we get into some heavy flirting with Xena and Caesar.
There are no accidents, only destiny.
Well, I can tell you one thing about your destiny. You're fated to have dinner in my cabin tonight.
Get it, girl? Below deck, Xena asks the runaway to show her how to put the pinch on someone's neck.
Show me on my neck.
Brave. She takes her sweet time deciding to not just let Xena die, and then Xena sensibly decides they'll practice on the runaway instead. Turns out she's a natural, and she's not just gonna let that pause go unpunished. Pirate Xena is fun.
I can play too.
Night falls and Xena takes out her creepy dead tiger rug to really set the mood for her private dinner with Caesar. And, you know, where's that?
Where did you steal that dress?
Stagira.
Maybe someday you can go back for the rest of it.
Xena has a proposition for Caesar. She's ready to quit pirating and wants to conquer the world together. And then apparently they both get super horny from talking about world domination.
I love it. Pursuing the enemy. Cutting off his only path of retreat.
Some enemies are harder than others.
Heyo! Anyway, Xena and her crew get their ransom money, and Xena asks Caesar when they'll see each other
A
again.
moment won't pass when I'm not thinking about you.
Now to show the passage of time with nature documentary footage. Dolphins, fishies, orca, birds. Eventually her ship sees Caesar's ship, and Xena orders them to sail towards it.
We're going to join them!
Her pinchy friend tells her it's a bad idea, but she doesn't listen. So the two ships meet up, and Caesar and Xena look like they're going to kiss, but then he does this,
Now!
and the Romans take the ship. He asks where the slave girl went, and Xena lies that she had to kill her.
Because she betrayed me.
Then Xena asks what happened to their plans to conquer the world.
There was never any us, Xena.
Given that William Shakespeare gave Caesar some of the most well-known last words in the world,
Et tu, Brute!
it's no spoiler that he's eventually going to get what's coming to him.
should totally just stab Caesar!
But the Ides of March doesn't happen until season 4 of Xena, so I'm sorry to say there'll be no comeuppance in this episode. In fact, it gets much worse, because Xena and all her crew get crucified.
Goodbye, Xena. Break her leg.
Hey, fun fact, the man breaking Xena's legs is Lucy Lawless's brother in real life. His name's Dan. Back in the present day, back in the day it was when we started, Gabrielle drags a dying Xena through some snow up a mountain and collapses. And Xena's not doing well either. And back in the past, the slave girl arrives on the scene to beat up the Roman guards and rescue Xena. Caesar, meanwhile, is busy telling Brutus that he can use all the money he just took from the pirates to raise his own army, conquer whatever he wants, be big, manly and powerful, and take over Rome. The guards arrive to tell him that Xena has escaped. Caesar tells them their lives are forfeit unless they go recapture her, so they head off to do that.
I want her lifeless body brought back to me by the end of the night.
Charming. Xena gets brought to a healer's house, and the slave girl begs him to help. Meanwhile, in the non-flashback time, Xena gets brought to a healer's house, and Gabrielle begs him to help. And then after all of that struggling Gabrielle just did, Xena says this.
Don't, please. Let me go.
I'm pretty pissed off on Gabrielle's behalf at this point. What was the point of going all that way? Back in the flashback, her broken leg gets fixed, which sounds horrible. Then she finally learns that the slave girl's name is Malila.
You're lucky Malila brought you here.
Ask her why she saved me.
Malila. Sorry.
She says it's not your time to die.
Fair enough. Back with Gabrielle, and Xena has internal bleeding. There's really not much the healer can do.
The doctor said all my bleeding was internal. That's where the blood's supposed to be.
And back to the flashback where Xena's legs are miraculously feeling a lot better, which is good because she's probably about to need them. The Roman centurions burst in and Malila takes a crossbow bolt that was meant for Xena. You guys are so screwed now. She slices this guy's throat with his own sword, then throws it to stab this guy. That is for sure our SmackDown of the Week! Well done, Pirate Xena. Well done indeed. Then she puts the pinch on this one.
You'll be dead in 30 seconds. But know this, you won't be the last.
While Gabrielle watches Xena slip away, we see the end of fun Pirate Xena and the birth of real nasty Xena.
A new Xena is born tonight. With a new purpose in life. Death. No!
Gabrielle begs the healer to do something as Xena's soul floats up out of her body. and drifts off to a flaming field where she lands in her crucifix. Heavy stuff, guys. Malilah's spirit appears to tell her that she still has a destiny to fight evil. Together, they hear Gabrielle praying for Xena to come back.
Just remember your destiny. Fight to come back. This world needs you. I need you.
And we end it there, with Xena realizing she has to go back. To be continued, my guys. I love a good flashback to evil Xena, and watching her snap at the end of this one because she was betrayed by a man. Mwah! Chef kiss. I always love when Karl Urban shows up, but especially as Julius Caesar. He's so great at being completely pompous and self-assured. I think it's kind of a bummer he doesn't turn up more in the series, but this is such a strong start. 4 chakrams out of 5. Hey you, thanks for watching to the end. If you like my Xena content, go ahead and hit subscribe if you haven't yet. There is of course more on the way. For one thing, I have to tell you how Xena comes back from the dead, because it's really a wild ride. See you then!